The top court has made some very important remarks today, ladies and gentlemen, and that have now started a big debate on India's entire policy or the lack of it as far as refugees are concerned. The Supreme Court said that India is not a Dharamshala that can entertain refugees from all over the world. Court orally, in fact, they made these remarks during a hearing while refusing to interfere with the detention of a Sri Lankan Tamil national. The court, in fact, said, these are some very important details that we are playing out at this moment. The court said, is India to host refugees from all over the world? We are struggling with 140 crore people within our own country as well. This is not a Dharamshala that we can entertain foreign nationals from all over the country. This is what Justice Dipankar Datta said, the presiding judge of the bench. What is your right to settle here? Is the question that was asked of the petitioner. My colleague is Nupur Dogra is joining us at this moment. Nupur, now this has started a big debate as well for a country, whether there should be compassion on the ground or the ground realities of that own country should be kept in mind. People are talking about refugee policy or the lack of it as far as the government is concerned.
Well, yes, Ankit, this case today came up as an individual case in the top court today in front of the bench of Justice Dipankar Datta. What the petitioner had, in fact, prayed to the top court that he should not be sent back to his country, that is Sri Lanka, where he's facing death threats, as he took part in the LTTE operations there. But however, remember, he was also sentenced for 7 years imprisonment in India under UAPA charges. And as he was found to be an operative of LTTE and was convicted of UAPA charges by the trial court. Now, he had moved the Supreme Court saying that since his family is settled here, he should not be deported back after his sentence is complete. But Justice Dipankar Datta said that he does not enjoy any fundamental right. These are just for citizens. And the top court, in fact, asked him that he may go to any other country if he fears a threat to his life, as India has its own 140 crore population to deal with. And India is not a Dharamshala that it will go on to accommodate everyone. Now, remember, just a few days back, the Supreme Court has, in fact, taken a dim view of a petition filed in the top court saying that about Rohingya refugees and claiming that they were illegally deported. Now, the top court has in fact tagged that petition, but it has raised several questions and had in fact remarked that we are already facing such a sensitive situation. Right. And in such a scenario, you are filing these petitions without any proof on record.
Right. Nupur, thank you for joining us at this moment with all the details of this story. Let me also bring in, for the more discussion, just more understanding, clarity on this, Mr. Nikhil Mehra. He's advocate in the Supreme Court. Mr. Mehra, thank you so much for speaking to us here on NDTV. Let me first start by asking you, sir. It starts a debate. A lot of people are saying that, should we be a compassionate country? Should there be a defined policy as far as refugees are concerned? And is that what these oral observation of the court also points out to?
We have always chosen not to have a defined policy. We have never had a refugee policy. We have never been signatories to the Refugee Convention or to any of its protocols. We have deliberately kept it vague because we pick and choose who we will give status to within our country. And we deal with them under a plethora of laws, such as the Foreigners Act, etc. It is purely discretionary how we go about these things. I think the intent from government consistently is to keep that gray area going.
Do you think that is the case? Because like the Supreme Court said, India can't become a Dharamshala. We are a very large country. Where we are already struggling. A lot of people are struggling for the resources of the country. More people coming in means much more pressure. On the other hand, the argument is that for a country like India, there should be compassionate grounds. Refugees should be treated in a certain way, which should be mandated at least by some sort of a law.
So let's separate these two things out. A part of our problem is this. A huge part, an integral part of our political discourse for decades now has been the movement of foreigners into the country unchecked, right? Particularly on the eastern borders. So we always talk about the surfeit of Bangladeshi refugees within the country, migrants within the country, all of whom very easily try to portray themselves as being Indian and are seamlessly moving back and forth across that border. And that has always been an issue. Now, if you had, say, much better protections across the border, perhaps you would look at the case of refugees differently. Look, the people who actually have refugee status are actually, in number, are very small. As a counterexample, let me explain this, that in the 90s, when there was a lot of problems in Afghanistan, particularly with the Taliban regime, the first Taliban regime, we had given refuge to a number of Afghan refugees. For those who are in Delhi, if you go to Lajpat Nagar, you will find a number of lanes that are full of Afghan businesses. We chose that. We wanted to have them here, and so we kept them. If I think we had a better border policy, or we had better border controls where we were able to control who comes in, who doesn't come in, we would perhaps have a more benevolent refugee policy, because no doubt in the discourse,
Yes.
the difference between a refugee and a migrant often gets completely blurred.
True. So, is it time for the government to rethink, as far as our policy is concerned, or do you believe it continues? Because what we are hearing from the court, a lot of people possibly would say that, this is a petition of somebody who may face a lot of persecution, even death threat, if he is sent back to his own country. In that aspect, do you believe that it's time to relook as far as our current policy is concerned?
So let's separate two things again. To the facts of this specific case, even when I read it and I read the details of it, even I felt that this was very harsh. He says in his petition at least that he was a part of the LTTE uprising in 2009, and so therefore he's blacklisted in Sri Lanka, and when he goes back, he will be severely persecuted, arrested and tortured perhaps. He has served his time, and now he has to leave the country because of that. So this is a genuine case of a potential persecution of that sort, right? We now contrast this with the case that Nupur had earlier mentioned in the show, that of the Rohingyas. That really, we get stuck with the same
Yes.
problems. How many such cases do you take on board? So the court, if anything, over 2 days has been consistent to say we will not be taking anybody if the government has said no. Right, and that is the benefit the government always obtains from this wishy-washy, imprecise kind of policy where we don't clearly dictate who is to be a refugee, what their rights are.
That's very, very important. Thank you so much.